Hey, hello you all. This is a special edition of Lectio Musica, the place for great lyrics, great music, great meaning. Hello, my name is Guylain. I'm French-Canadian and a Franciscan friar. And since my teenage year, I love rock music, especially in the subgenre of, I would say, hard rock, metal, prog. And I love still today to listen to one good song, to look at closely to the lyrics, listening to the way that the music is constructed, as well as to understand what is the meaning of that song, and maybe a little bit reflect on the meaning of life. So this review is about the latest album of Nightwish. Let me put up the screen for you. Here it is. Okay, so latest album of Nightwish called Human Nature. Now, why can I do that? Well, let me tell you something. First of all, this is my 20th video on the album. Yes, I've been doing reaction videos of every single songs, analysis of them. Sometimes it's a combined video, reaction and analysis. But there's also a review of the second side of the album called Nature. I've been doing that for the last 2 months. And most of my videos are in French with English subtitles, all of them. But sometimes also Spanish subtitles. Why? Because I'm French speaking, but also because at the beginning I thought I would have 30 participants to these videos, and suddenly by the end of Nightwish album I had up to 2,000 subscribers. So it came as a complete surprise for me. I began in French, I added subtitles to one, and it just kind of blew up. So I have listened to the whole album song by song, and also the whole album 5 times with what we call professional grade, professional level of a DAC, which is a digital analogical converter, and also a studio level natural sound headphones. I have also listened to the album with quality earbuds, what we call quality, medium quality, and once in a car, so that I can have an accurate evaluation of the mastering and mixing of the album. Now, why I decided to do this review, I didn't intend to at first, because I listened to few reviewers, and I have to say I have very different criteria, and I certainly was not satisfied with the evaluation done by others, so I decided to do mine. But one thing I want you to look at closely. I want you to have a look to my criteria. Maybe some of these things are important to you, but maybe some aren't. I look for great lyrics, great music. I look for a very close bond between the lyrics and the music, what is called the art of prosody, the art of songwriting. Sometimes you have great music, the words are. Sometimes you have great words, the music is. Prosody is the art of making great songs. Interpretation, the quality of the band, the meaning of the words, and finally, the quality of the recording. Now, this is what I want you to do. You can stop the video right here and go and get yourself a piece of paper and a pen. After each section, I want you to give a mark, like I will do. And down below, after the video, I want you to put a mark on the record Human Nature, as I did, and we will discuss about it. Now, what do you think of the album? And we will discuss and have a lot of fun about this album that I found great. Now let's do that in order. I gave points up to 20 for the lyrics, the music, and the interprets and the meaning. 10 points for prosody and recording. Altogether it gives 100 points. The lyrics. My impression, my understanding is that it's superb poetry. What we call in French the métrie. I think it's the metrics in English. The richness of the vocabulary, the evocation more than description, which is poetry, by the way. Creative use of words. I found that album superb. Secondly, the numerous references that we have in antiquity, classical literature and theater, science, modern fiction, makes this album quite unique from my point of view. And also the use of what I call multi-layer vocabulary means that the songs, the lyrics, they can have multiple meaning, which brings a lot of richness to the words. By this, of course, some people might find that it's not easy to grasp at first sight. It's not simple words that we can understand right away. But these words, we can still understand new things in 20, 30 years, which is, for me, is great classics value here. I gave for the lyrics 20 on 20. The music. This is metal, but it's beyond metal. This is symphonic metal, and it's a great symphonic metal record. With the integration of multiple influences that you'll find right here, of other metal subgenres like death metal, doom, rock, jazz, classical, sacred music, musique sacrée in French, we have very rich album, but it is not incoherence. It very, very strong music, diversity, while keeping a very strong focus. It has it's a complex piece of work, but it's still very beautiful to hear, enjoyable. I found, if I want to say one tiny little thing, but it's really nothing compared to the quality of the overall album, I think that sometimes the instrumental section are what we call in French sirupeux. In English, they tend to say a little bit cheesy. But again, I just want to stress out that that's probably what most people would say of the romantic period of classical music, or the movie music, or sometimes musical as well. For me, if I wanted to be very picky, that's the little one thing to my taste, but that's nothing. In terms of prosody here, the lyrics are translated perfectly into music, and the music comments and gives meaning to the words. For me, this is perfectly coherent, and yet it's full of surprises. So when we think that the music and the lyrics come together from a single man, I think this is the secret for such coherence. Everything is tightly knit together. Personally, I think that this composer lyricist, Thomas Lopainen, is probably the master in this field here. I don't see anybody being close to his status here. I found that exceptional all along. 10 on 10 on this, and that's probably one of the great secrets of this album. Now the band, as interpreters of this magnificent piece of music. The rhythm section is exceptional. Complete tightness in complex structure. The keyboards are beyond excellence. From my point of view, this is beautiful. Natural instruments, both the classical and the traditional, played by Troy. Very, very well played, very well done. Troy is exquisite on pitch all the time. This is perfect work. Back vocals, wonderfully mixed, both the choir and also when they have the small, I would say, scola of the other members. It's beautiful. We heard there things that we never heard before. The lead vocals now, Marco, best vocal I've heard of him. Wonderful, only in one song though, but perfect. Troy, the cast for the two songs, the one small section in Shoemaker and Harvest, I find this perfect. Is the perfect vehicle for that kind of content. But is there words to describe the performance of Floor? I think it's impossible to match by anybody. You would need three singers to do what she does. It's out of this world. It's unbelievable. In fact, I've never heard anywhere this quality of recording from a single person, and I really mean that. And to top this all, when I see that all these musicians and singers are between, if I'm not mistaken, 39 and 59, and I see, compared to Dark Passion Play, the other studio album I know, or Showtime Storytime, the live album, I can't believe that these guys at their age are still surpassing themselves, pushing themselves towards excellence. This is extraordinary. We have an expression, it's sitting on s'asseoir sur ses lauriers, sitting on your own laurels. This album is certainly not that. These guys, they push themselves to the limit. In fact, I really wonder how they will be able to match that in a live setting if a show is 80% the quality we've seen on this album. I think that will be the show of the decade, nothing less. And if the sound engineers and the sound system in the show is decent to extraordinary, it will be wonderful. Now, I come to the point where I ask myself, is there another band who could play that material here? And I don't know any. If you know, just put it down here. I'll become an instant fan. For me, this band is the perfect vehicle for this music. And I know it's 20 years old now. It's exceptional. I don't see how it can be any better than that. Now, in terms of meaning, this is probably one of the elements where I give a little bit more importance to that than most reviewer. I say the lyrics, but also the meaning of the album. We have a clear presentation, a mind vision, a way of seeing the world, very clear, very beautiful, and very inspiring. First of all, there's coherence in the overall picture. I compared it to Cathedral and an art gallery. It's not a linear narration, but it presents 9 paintings of subjects which are very accurately depicted. And there's inspiration from the work of other artists while being truly original. There's also a rich vision coming from about the universe and the human species, coming from pretty much all field of modern science, but especially astrophysics and biology. I found that very refreshing, while it is not presented in a very dry or scientific, I would say, argumentative way. It's evocative, it's beautiful, it's artistic. Probably the summit for me is Shoemaker, where a scientific is presented as a modern Romeo in love with his Juliet, which is denied the cosmos. This is absolutely stupendous. This is beautiful. All this is with a very down-to-earth and mature understanding of everyday life, human relations, appreciation of nature, the appreciation of the here and now and of the past. I find it remarkable in the rock world to have that kind of human relation depicted so beautifully. And there's even a touch of, I would say, spiritual or mystical touch to the album, which also is quite refreshing. I know that in the symphonic metal, you have these, I would say, sacred choirs and music and lines and melodies, arrangements, but here it's done very beautifully. If I want to be a little bit critical of very tiny things, I think that the album is not as good and looking at the future as it is to look at the past. I find a little lack of critical appreciation of the science. I think the album is a bit naive towards the science. Not many words about politics and economics, which could be within the topic of human nature, things that could have been brought to our attention, even in a poetic way. But hey, I say, this is the kind of comment I would do in my own field about someone else's work. Here we're talking about a record. This is unbelievable. It's wonderful. So here on this element, I give it 20 over 18 on 20. The recording now. What we call captation in French, capture, I think, is perfect, clean, crisp for the rhythm section, the keyboards and the voices. This is perfect word of getting the sound of these instruments. There's also specialized captation in the instruments of Troy, the symphonic orchestra, the choirs. Perfect all around. I suspect that there are specialists of these kinds of work, of orchestras, of natural instruments, traditional instruments, of choirs. Everything is perfect. From my point of view, nothing can be better. Now, the mixing. I found that album completely different from what I hear in North America. This record is metal, symphonic metal, but it's made with a classical mindset. There's breathing space in intros and extros, then breakdowns. There is space for the mind, space for the reflection, while when we need a very, very compressed, strong metal sound, we have it where it counts. This is, for me, I thought that this kind of record didn't exist anymore. It was done in the 70s with the prog trend. Sometimes it's done here and there in a symphonic rendition of past rock music or something. But in an original recording, this is for me the very first time I see that quality of recording. Now, just one little thing about the mixing, compressing, or mastering it, because it can, I don't know where it should be situated. The spoken voice is sometimes lost in the music for few syllables. I think of Shoemaker and Adestra especially. The other element is that what we call sustained string sound, whether it's natural instruments or keyboards, I find it sometimes a little bit intense or insistent. And lastly, I had to do one full attentive listening of Marco's bass guitar throughout the album. To me, it's a little bit too discreet. But I know perfectly well, for having done this, it can be a problem not of the mixing, but of the compression process or the mastering. So I find it a little bit sad, but it's very, very minor. I'm so confident in the mixing team that I'm pretty sure it's just a small problem happening only at the compression level or the masterization. And now you have the breakdown of the marks I gave to every section: 2019 10, 2018 9, for a global appreciation of 96 points, which is by far the highest mark I ever given to a metal record. In fact, it's probably the best mark I would have given for most rock record in general. I give here, maybe a little inspiration from Harry Potter or something, I gave 4 stars and 3/4. I don't want to give 5 stars, even if I think it's a 5-star record, because I want to give 5 to 10 years to make this final appreciation of the record. But from my point of view, is as close as it can be in this period of time to be a masterpiece. Now, I have few words for Nuclear Blast Records. If the project director or accountant, the person who made the decision to finance that album, if she's a lady, I want to kiss her on both cheeks, or if it's a man, I want to give a big hug, because this is very audacious decision to make a 80 minutes album with 30 minutes of almost classical music, where Nightwish appears only in little bits and pieces here and there. I thought that this kind of a finance decision about an album was not of this world anymore. It was part of the, I would say, the prog trend in the 70s. Maybe here and there, few concept album, but here I found that decision extremely refreshing. It brings hope in my mind. I hope really that it will not be the last one. It will be a new trend in music, especially the treatment of the natural instruments is beautiful. Now, not only the album is beautiful as a whole, but also you managed to produce what I call a masterpiece of video for the song Noise. This video is out of this world. I think it's the best I ever seen. But it's not all. You also financed a set of lyrics videos that are, from my point of view again, unmatched quality. With the quality, sometimes lyrics videos, they have too much information. Sometimes they have nothing. Here, they have just enough elements, artistic, tasteful elements to support or enhance the lyrics. Everything is gorgeous, beautiful, incredible. So kudos to all of these guys. I don't know them. I don't know even the record company. That's my first time. But this is beautiful, extraordinary. I thought it didn't exist anymore. Now I'll have just a small request here. Would you make the master's file available for those of us who likes to listen, to have the sound that you have in the studio, to hear what you hear when you do the mixing? Such a tasteful record should be available, from my point of view, in master files on Tidal or any other place where master files are available. So, to finish it all, don't forget, I want your appreciation of the album down here. Maybe the numbers are not the same, the marks are not the same for you. Just put it down and discuss about it. I want to read you. I want to know what you think of that album. If you agree with me, if you don't, write it down. So, this is not it. We'll finish with the album Nightwish, Human Nature. I find this to be one of the 5 best albums of my life. But we're not done. Here you will have, beginning next week, a 10-song, I would say chronologically, a survey of 10 songs of Epica. This will begin somewhere next week. After that, we will go back in the repertoire of Nightwish in August, September, again, 10 songs. And Rush would be covered, a Canadian group, in October, November. This is a rough evaluation at this point, but if you want to follow all this, you can subscribe to this channel And if you want to be notified as soon as there is a new video, well, you want to click the little bell that you have just beside the subscribe button. I hope you liked this review, and please tell me what you think. I'm expecting the discussion begins now down here. Bye for now.